This is the nature of things. For thousands of years, the indigenous cultures of the Amazon basin have used plant treatments to cure what ails them. The Western world, too, has benefited from these ancient medicines since European contact was made with rainforest peoples hundreds of years ago. The latest exchange between these worlds is unfolding between the Peruvian Amazon and the hard streets of Vancouver's downtown east side. In each place, a doctor is challenging the Western medical model by using an ancient medicine in conjunction with traditional healers to treat drug-addicted patients. The plant mixture they use is ayahuasca, a psychotropic medicine capable of causing life-changing catharsis. Could this tea from the Amazon help revolutionize the way we understand addiction? There's a growing interest in traditional plant medicines, such as a potent tea from the Amazon. It's called ayahuasca. Could it offer a solution to one of society's greatest challenges, addiction? Dr. Gábor Máté, who has treated addicts for decades in the downtown east side of Vancouver, decides to find out.
I'm joined right now here in the Democracy Now! Studio by a doctor who spent the last 12 years working with one of the densest populations of drug addicts in the world. Dr. Gábor Máté is the staff physician at the Portland Hotel, a residence and harm reduction facility in Vancouver, Canada's downtown east side. Now, talk about the people you treat.
Well, the hardcore drug addicts that I treat are, without exception, people who've had extraordinarily difficult lives.
Dr. Gábor Máté is a medical doctor and writer, dedicated to understanding how our health is affected by non-physical factors such as psychological pressures, our social conditions, and childhood development.
Hi.
His latest book is focused on how these factors influence addiction. It garnered him a lot of press attention and won Canada's top prize for nonfiction.
Well, addiction, in my definition, is any behavior that has negative consequences, that goes on over time, that the person craves and relapses into despite those negative consequences. Now, given that definition, there are many more addicts amongst us than simply the people who inject drugs.
Through his work, Maté has been piecing together the puzzle of what lies at the root of our addictive tendencies. It's there that Maté believes we can understand how to heal ourselves.
Well, we've used opiates in medicine for 3,000 years. What's important to note, though, is that the opiates don't only soothe physical pain, they also soothe emotional pain. And that means that the salient question in addiction is always not why the addiction, but why the pain.
Dr. Maté's insights into the underlying causes of addiction help him understand some of his most troubled patients, like sled dog trainer Megan.
I was pregnant with twins.
Yeah.
And for my first ultrasound, I found out that they were without heartbeat. And then they put me through a series of different ways to miscarry. That didn't work and resulted in an emergency D&C. 2 days later, my partner left me. And I just kind of gave up on things.
What I have here is is that you checked out. You self-discharged.
I self-discharged on what day?
October 2nd.
Which?
Yesterday.
I wasn't even here yesterday.
Can you hold on? I have to clear this up, okay?
Okay. How long is that going to be?
We come back in 15 minutes. I should hopefully have an answer.
You want me to hang out on Hastings Street as an addict for 15 minutes?
Well, I can't let you in until I get it cleared up, that's all.
Cynthia, a native Canadian, struggles to resist her addictive tendencies on the dangerous streets of Vancouver's downtown east side.
Methadone. So what's happened during the last week? What were you doing during the last week?
Not eating, not sleeping. Fixed on thinking if I didn't have dope, where I was going to get money to get dope and what I was going to do after that. And, you know, it was all about dope. I don't even know what day it is. I missed my birthday, like...
When was your birthday?
Yesterday.
Happy birthday. How old are you?
22.
22?
Addicts like Brianne and her boyfriend Colin are being treated with methadone, but it's not working. Dr. Maté sees this as a failure of the narrow prescription-based treatment model Western medicine relies upon.
Can you tie it, please? Really tight. Man? Oh, thank you.
In medical school, Dr. Maté was taught to understand the human body as a machine, a biological mechanism separate from our emotions. But the doctor's experience has taught him that health is not just dependent on our physical bodies. This has changed his approach and that of his colleagues by emphasizing compassion and the importance of listening.
So how's things going for you?
This is Cynthia's life in a million little pieces. That's my son.
Nice.
He's 6. She's 4.
That's horrible.
Destiny just turned 9. Sydney's 13.
Yeah? Where's your kids now?
With my parents. I called the ministry myself and asked them to come and take my kids.
Frustrated with failed treatment models, Dr. Maté is looking to new solutions for his patients. In a cafe in Vancouver, Maté hears firsthand from a friend who has spent years studying the traditional indigenous doctors who use ayahuasca, a mysterious medicine from the jungles of South America.
Has anybody here ever thought or has actually tried to use the plant to heal specifically addictions up here in Canada and North America?
It hasn't been guided in a consistent way. In Peru, there's a center that's been running for a number of years, a French doctor, Dr. Jacques Mabit, a center called Mabit, called Takawasi, where he integrates traditional Amazonian healing practices with Western psychotherapeutic practices. And he's a Western trained doctor as well.
To find out more, Dr. Maté decides to travel to Peru. Perhaps this medicine could provide some answers for his patients before they run out of time.
I couldn't numb the pain that I felt.
Yeah. And you actually tried to kill yourself?
Yeah.
When I'd stick myself with a needle was to be able to feel pain, to actually feel like a person, because I felt like nobody anymore.
Tell me what it feels like for you right now.
Hopeless.
Yeah?
Why are you put here on this earth to feel like this, you know?
Maté wants to observe and learn more about the treatment center that has been successfully helping addicts using an ancient Amazonian tea called ayahuasca. Cut off from the outside world, patients spend 9 months in the legendary treatment center called Takiwasi, a Quechua word for the house that sings. The intense therapeutic process is equal parts communal living, modern psychotherapy, and plant treatments drawn from rainforest medicine. The man who created this facility is French doctor Jacques Maté.
Most everything we have created here was inspired from visions or dreams. Even the treatment process itself. My experience has been a process of progressive discovery. I came here 30 years ago with Doctors Without Borders and came in contact with the local traditional doctors. I was surprised to find they had answers for certain problems that Western medicine couldn't solve. Their practice was centered around a vine called ayahuasca that, it was said, allowed one to go deep into one's true self. I drank ayahuasca and felt I had learned more about myself in one night than in the previous 20 years. My interest was to see if I, trained as a Western medical doctor in a very academic background, would be able to actually access this world that the shamans told me about.
For over 25 years, Maté has worked hand in hand with traditional healers like Humberto Piawahi and continues to learn from them today. His work is part of a shift going on in global medical circles. After centuries of being labeled as primitive, traditional medicines are slowly regaining academic and institutional acceptance.
Yawarpanga is a very important plant here. It is a strong purgative with very interesting effects in the treatment of withdrawal symptoms.
Will this plant work for all withdrawals? If somebody comes here stopping heroin overnight, will they not go through intense opiate withdrawal nevertheless, even with this plant?
For cocaine, heroin, cannabis, it all works the same. Also methadone. The withdrawal symptoms are greatly reduced in 1 or 2 weeks.
Plant medicines like Yawarpanga are part of a natural Amazonian pharmacy. Traditions establish how to prepare and properly administer these powerful plants. At the core of Maté's treatment program is ayahuasca, Quechua for vine of the ancestors, or vine of the souls. It's a preparation composed of 2 plants, the ayahuasca vine, Banisteriopsis api, and leaves from the Psychotria viridis bush. On their own, neither plant has much effect. However, boiled together, they create one of the most powerful of psychotropic experiences. The fact that thousands of years ago, forest doctors managed to find this potent combination amid countless plant species is a tremendous feat of botanical discovery. Today, ayahuasca is still used in shamanic rituals by more than 70 tribes along the Amazon basin. To the tribes that use it, ayahuasca is considered a sacred medicine, a living entity, a plant that teaches humans how to live.
Addiction is a typically Western pathology. It didn't exist in traditional cultures until Westerners arrived. The Western pathology transformed and profaned the use of these sacred plants by taking them without context, ritual preparation, or intention. The result was that the effects of these medicines were twisted, even reversed.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and the Western way is completely to take the sacred plants and to make them into addictive substances, and then become afraid of them. We really have lost the connection to the healing power of plants, and not just plants. We've lost our connection to healing, period. I'm just laughing here because if a group of Canadian or French doctors heard this conversation, they'd immediately call the psychiatrists and have us both committed to some psychiatric institution.
In order to learn more about ayahuasca, Dr. Maté submits to some unorthodox preparations. To help them focus, patients state their intentions before the ceremony.
In order to be well, I need to recover the trust of the people who love me.
I want to discover where these fears come from.
In Peru, Dr. Gábor Máté has been invited to participate in a traditional ayahuasca ceremony. In the Amazon, they say that what matters most is not what's in the cup, but how it is served. Held in complete darkness, these ceremonies last the entire night and are overseen by traditional doctors. Ayahuasca creates a dreamlike state, often accompanied by intense nausea. Most people report revisiting the most significant events of their lives, like sequences in a chaotic film. The drinker is vaulted from one subconscious vision to the next, and as buried memories rise to the surface, it often leads to acute emotional catharsis.
Like when you're on a roller coaster and you're going up and down and you say to your stomach, you think, I'll never take this ride again. But that's not what I was left with. I was left with the exhilaration and the healing and the sheer joy of the experience. Just after I purged, you came up to me and you put your hand on my head. It brought back my father and the memory of my father putting his hand on my head and blessing me. And it was a deeper experience than I remembered. Because what I remembered was a slightly embarrassing experience. My father, not being very religious, he was trying to carry out a ritual. I received it with a bit of embarrassment. But when you came up and you did this blessing, I experienced my father really giving me a blessing. And I understood that underneath his embarrassment and my embarrassment, there really was a blessing.
Research at Takiwasi shows that ayahuasca combats addiction because it helps the patients to reconcile their pasts. This is key to keeping them drug-free in the long term. Takiwasi applies these findings to their treatment of addicts, like new arrival, Emek, a heroin addict from Germany.
They spend 9 months here, living in close quarters. The community life aspect is very important because the insights that come from the plants are tested by the frictions that occur in everyday relationships. All the incidents, the disturbances, and the conflicts that come from living together become part of the therapeutic process.
At Takiwasi, the plants help patients see the source of their problems. That is the first part of the recovery. The second part is to turn those insights into the lasting changes that will allow them to remain drug-free once they leave the center. Over the 9 months of their stay, they are constantly monitored through counseling, chores, and daily interaction with others.
Ayahuasca only reveals what is inside of us. It is like a signpost at a crossroads. It only shows the way. Ayahuasca is not going to do the work for you. You have to go that way.
Standard detox treatment centers in North America have an effective long-term success rate of about 8%. Takiwasi's follow-up studies report 60% of those who finished the 9-month treatment remain drug-free 3 years after leaving.
May God guide you and protect you on your journey. We can talk and theorize all we want, but what we want, clinically, as doctors, is to prove that a patient who was doing badly took the plants and is now doing better. That is the idea behind what we do, and to let it be known so that doctors in Canada and other places can be inspired by this model, which we did not invent, but only received from the indigenous people.
In the Colombian Amazon, the most respected healers from 9 indigenous groups gather each year to ensure the proper use of ayahuasca, which in their traditions requires years of rigorous training. While a legitimate interchange between doctors of different traditions shows great potential, indigenous healers have concerns about ayahuasca's commercialization and its loss of cultural context. Like a scalpel, ayahuasca can be a powerful tool in the hands of a professional. In the hands of an amateur, it can cause great harm. Dr. Maté now knows what kind of difference ayahuasca can make in the lives of those treated with it in the proper environment. Before returning home, though, he needs to understand more about how the medicine works. The most important research into the neurochemistry of ayahuasca has been done over the past decade in Spain at the University Hospital of São Paulo in Barcelona. Dr. Jordi Riba has studied the medicine's effects on the human body and mind.
What really struck me was that they appeared very calm. After they had taken ayahuasca, they remained seated with their eyes closed, but later when I interviewed them, they told me that they had like revelations and visions. Mm-hmm. They had very interesting insights into their personality, the way they behaved, how they related to others, and they found that this was very useful for their everyday life and for their personal growth.
And their past, perhaps, as well?
Yeah, they also had emotional memories of their past, sometimes traumatic events.
Yes.
Some time ago, I used to joke saying that ayahuasca allowed people to have a random access to memory. But I think that it's not random, because what usually comes up are memories that have a very, very important emotional load.
Yes.
It's not just like remembering what you had yesterday for dinner, but perhaps how you felt about a relative or a loved one some years ago, or you remember some experience that was emotionally relevant to you.
Dr. Riba and his team have found that ayahuasca hyperactivates the highly evolved neocortex, the area of the brain that makes us human. This is where we perceive, reason, and make decisions. Ayahuasca also activates regions like the amygdala, which acts as a storehouse for early emotional memories, specifically the most traumatic or significant ones, like the loss of a parent. Finally, ayahuasca activates the insula, which is believed to create a bridge between our emotional impulses and our decision-making capacities.
So is that where awareness would be mediated?
neurologist Damasio.
Yes.
He says the area where feeling states are generated is the insula.
According to many neuroscientists, our decision-making process has a powerful emotional component. When any stimulus enters the brain tries to understand it based on previous experiences. In early life, powerful or traumatic events create an imprint on the brain, a pattern. This pattern is like a shortcut, activated every time we face a similar situation. For example, if we were once attacked by a dog, our brain might harbor a set of these pathways that associate that dog with all dogs, making us fear them in general. We might even react adversely to a distant bark. Repeated events cause these neural patterns to reinforce their connections, binding them with protein and building them up like scar tissue. If this is how these traumas are rooted in our brains, how does ayahuasca affect those ingrained patterns? Ayahuasca hyperactivates the entire brain region where we store and process emotional memory, often uncovering long-forgotten memories. This hyperactivation enables the conscious part of the new brain to temporarily override previously entrenched patterns, allowing new connections to be made. Dogs, for example, may no longer be feared as these new connections are created and memories re-evaluated. In field studies, ayahuasca users typically describe having emerged with new perspectives on past experiences and deeply rooted patterns of behavior. Still in Barcelona, Maté visits Dr. Josep Fabregas, who has conducted the world's largest study on the long-term effects of ayahuasca. Over a period of several years, regular users were put through standardized tests to measure the effects of the tea on reasoning and decision-making. His results show that ayahuasca is not addictive and that ritualized use has no detrimental effects on healthy subjects. In fact, in certain cognitive tests, long-term users scored better than the control groups.
Of course, the really interesting question is, now that we know that it's safe, is it also helpful? Is it useful?
For some problems, this is a very good solution.
For example?
For example,
depression,
post-traumatic stress,
yes.
The stress for the sexual abuse in the young people.
Yes.
Sometimes the psychiatry is not a solution for this, but only
right.
change the symptom. But
right.
with ayahuasca, you have the possibility, the capacity to revive the situation with the same feeling and the same pain, but with the capacity to change this situation. And this is a very it's a treasure.
In a safe environment.
Yes, yes.
Most of addiction is about post-traumatic stress. It's a self-medication. So personally, I can see that it works, and I can also see why it works. But proving it to colleagues, that's another question entirely.
It's not the ayahuasca, it's the ritual use of the ayahuasca.
Dr. Maté is determined to apply what he's learned to help his patients. But he knows it will be a challenging prospect.
Hello. Hi. Hi, please. Hi. Welcome home.
Thank you.
You good, okay? You get to come see Mommy again soon. Okay?
Bye, Mommy. Bye, Mom.
Back in Vancouver, Cynthia has to let go of her children once again. Dr. Maté's other patients are still struggling, and the legal treatment options open to the doctor may not be enough. If extracted, some of the compounds in the tea are illegal, placing it in a gray area of the law. Maté is aware the experimental program he is planning to implement may attract controversy, but he's willing to take the risk involved to help his patients.
So I'd like to talk to you about a treatment that uses a Peruvian healing plant. What it offers is knowledge that it might take people sometimes years to acquire. So it's an opportunity to go very deeply into what's actually behind the addiction and also what's on the other side of it.
Dr. Maté's group includes participants whose issues range from full-blown heroin addiction to struggles with depression. He won't be able to replicate the 9-month intensive program in Peru, but he's going to try to see what a more limited regime might accomplish. An experienced team will lead the ayahuasca session itself. Collectively, they have more than 20 years of training in the Amazon with indigenous ayahuasca doctors. This will be the first experiment of its kind in North America.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tracy. I don't have a substance abuse problem, but I guess I'm here just, I think I have similar emotional sort of blockages. Like my life is just stagnant.
Cynthia, welcome. So what are you addicted to?
Heroin, cocaine, crack.
Now you contacted me interested in this process.
I did believe that I was just going to die on Hastings.
I see.
My goal is to get to the point where I can live life not being an addict and actually live life again and not have the drugs control my life. So that's my goal.
I seem to have forgotten who I am. And then when I have to look at myself, I use. Because I don't want to.
Megan, the big issue for you is your drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to work as long as you're drinking. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't mean that you got to stop drinking. You don't got to do anything. But I'm saying continually confront it internally. So can I hear you say what your intention is, what the question is in your own words that makes sense to you?
My intention would be to look at what it's going to take internally for me to, you know, drop this negative habit.
I don't know why this cracks me up so much, but like I just couldn't think about myself at all. Like I don't even have an image of myself in my head other than photographs I have seen of myself. I think it turned into like, you know, who am I?
It brought up lots of things. The past with my father, because my father was an alcoholic. I was feeling abandonment. And that I'm doing exactly the same thing to my son by being a drug addict and not being there for him.
It was kind of like someone was shining a flashlight in my eyes.
You can think about what you were like just before the ceremony tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And what's there for you right now.
Now I'm just calm and relaxed. Yeah.
You calm and relax.
Yeah.
Do you notice that difference? This is exactly what I'm seeing, okay?
I notice it now.
That's exactly what I'm seeing, is I'm seeing this calmness and this relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like?
Nice.
I totally get how damn difficult it is to give up anything. Dysfunctional thoughts, codependencies, addictions, thought patterns. We just hold on to them.
Maté knows that all treatment programs present challenges, and the possibility of a relapse is a constant threat. Unlike at Takiwasi, Mate's most vulnerable addicts are back on the drug-ridden streets between sessions.
I feel like I'm going to use. I feel very, very, very at risk. I do, babe. I'm sorry, but I do. I know I need your support all day. All day.
Over a period of 7 months, at an isolated location in British Columbia, Dr. Maté and his team hold monthly group sessions.
I had a really beautiful vision of my little sister as a little girl, and it totally made me like freak out. I mean, like it just really made me really super emotional. She's just, you know, unspoiled by the world. I felt like I had sort of forgotten her that way.
Some members of the group see deep-rooted patterns begin to change. Others fall out of step. For many, these lessons are difficult to incorporate. Realizations don't always take hold in everyday life.
Oh my gosh. Like giving up wine, beer, this is difficult. Giving up, you know, prescription drugs.
Brianne and Colin managed to stay clean for several weeks, but in this environment, relapse is more common than success.
Do you want two or one?
I want two. Here. You're doing mine, right?
Yes.
Cut. There's people right there.
Well, it's a park, Brianne. Of course there's people. You got it?
Yeah.
You know, if we actually get somewhere with these people, that'd be totally amazing.
Even one of them.
Yeah.
Dr. Maté has concerns about the welfare of his patients and how effective his program can be. Working with ayahuasca is a difficult process, but the potential he's witnessed encourages him.
I'm really having a hard time believing the images that I've seen. I've had numerous male abusers. I remember this very clear picture of my mother leaving one time and leaving to the bar, and I was probably about 4. Just chasing her down the street, begging her not to leave.
Oh, Jesus.
Having a hard time understanding why when somebody loves you so much that they can take so much innocence from you. The pain in my chest is gone.
What is there instead?
Relief.
If at 35 we re-experience something that happened when we were 5, it might be the same situation, but now understood through the capacities, the structure of a 35-year-old. That might give us a chance to reposition the experience.
The ayahuasca has helped me a lot. It's like being 34 and feeling like a newborn.
Nothing was revealed to you that you can't handle.
No.
How much sadness have you had in your life?
But
But I'm always the funny guy.
That was my next question. So there's a lot of sadness there.
Yeah.
But you haven't allowed yourself to experience it. You're getting it now.
My heart hurts, but what the medicine gave to me was the ability to accept that I'm hurting, and that's okay.
Yeah. The question is, can you be with your own pain? Can you be with your sadness?
Yes.
Okay. That's all you need.
That's it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Megan's self-medicating habits have all but disappeared. She's in a new relationship and plans to start a business. Returning from the last group session, Dr. Maté talks to his wife, Ray, about his experience with the medicine.
It was really the most amazing completion of this process with that group. I had this real sense that this could actually be life, that people actually could support each other and love each other.
Yeah.
And they got in real touch with who they were.
Yeah.
Underneath all the pain and all the mechanisms to defend against the pain. And so there was a beauty about it. There was a presence of something much greater.
Yeah.
It's not that it's all over for those people. It's not that they haven't got work and misery ahead of them. They do.
Yeah.
But the healing capacity and the richness of their actual selves, which presented itself and which declared itself, they're never going to forget. The use of the plant in the context of people living in the downtown east side, the two just don't mix. I mean, Takawasi doesn't do this. People come from wherever they are and they stay there for 9 months and they don't do a ceremony and then they go back to living in a drug-dominated ghetto. To really demonstrate what this process can do, you need to look at the broader picture. I guess what we do is we show the possibilities that are inherent in the process. Because people do have these breakthroughs, and some of them have made real changes in their lives.
Now, drug-free, Cynthia is making progress. She has found a new home and is fighting to regain permanent custody of her children. Maté continues working with ayahuasca in controlled environments, treating addictions, illnesses aggravated by stress, as well as people's unresolved emotional histories. Dr. Maté is now one of a group of doctors working to advance their knowledge of these plants, to promote healing where Western medicine has proved inadequate.
The plant has enormous possibility, enormous power, and enormous potential. And with the appropriate context, we have a tool, not a tool, but a partner, an ally in healing that we simply cannot afford to ignore. Thank you.
Next time, the nature of things goes to Istanbul, where transit construction has uncovered an ancient harbor.
Most of it is buried underneath a sprawling modern city.
The shipwrecks are preserved greatly as I have never seen before.
Will archaeologists be able to solve the mysteries of the past before this unique window on history closes forever?